videos in, and we're still just dealing with the oscillator. That's a record, I think. Yeah, it's got to be. Anyway, so the last oscillator type that we're going to deal with is modal, and it's actually a modal resonator, which is, to my knowledge, really kind of like physical sound modeling. So let's dig into that. First, let's get there. There it is, modal. I love synthesizer sounds as much as the next person, but there's a part of me that after so many years of experiencing them, I like complex sounds. I like acoustic sounds. I like more real world sounds coming out of electronic resources. It's really interesting to me when you can hear something that's like, wait, that's not just a square wave or something. It actually has some meat to it. The timbre has some, acoustic aspects to it. I'm going to switch this to paraphonic. This actually, just even right now, sounds like something maybe plucked a little bit. The three functions, wave is amount of inharmonicity or material selection. Basically, you're picking the resource, the substance that is being struck in this modal resonator. So basically we have string, bell, and dinner plate. No. It does immediately sound very bell-like, though. I mean, like realistically bell-like. That's really interesting. And then the next knob, timbre, is excitation, brightness, and dust density. Okay. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea what that means, but it just gets brighter and darker. That's really weird because right now it's sounding like kind of plucked harp-like, but also has this metallic element to it. So in a way, we're actually touching on what synthesizers were originally designed to do, which was make sounds and instruments that did not currently exist. And that's kind of like what we're doing right now. Kind of string-like and yet metallic. I love that. The last knob, decay or shape, is the decay of the sound. Very pluck-like right now. I like that kind of twang in there. Wow. Very plate-like. I wasn't joking when I said dinner plate. then it gets kind of wooden when you take the high frequencies out of there. And that's kind of what this is emulating. Like some substances, when you strike them, like dampen various harmonics in the vibration and result in a darker, warmer sound, like wood as opposed to a plate. Now we're totally sounding like wood pieces. And less so now. It's because we're accustomed to how wood tends to dampen vibration. So we can be tricked. So we just went from wood, like xylophone, like wood flicking, to now guitar plucking. And of course, as I say in every single video, at some point you can start to modulate these so that with each hit, you know, it goes from inharmonic to tonal, or it goes from bright to dark like real sounds do, or dark to bright like sounds tend not to do. Or, you know, certainly you could have it so that the touch keyboard, which we haven't talked about, allows you to choose whether a particular note has a long decay or a short decay. It's really an interesting experimental tool with sound. And so it's not just cool synthesizer sounds that you can use in this cool dance track. It's like a lab for you to explore digital emulations of what happens when a thing is struck. That's not a thing that typically happens when something is struck, but that's the cool thing about it. You can also stretch it into directions that would not typically happen. Obviously very good for bell sounds. I can see we were missing some interesting timbres by not exploring octaves. Anyway, yes, as you can undoubtedly see, that there's, again, a wealth of exploration possible to create timbres that really are what you are looking for by taking these settings and setting them where you want them to be, or modulating them with various aspects such as the cycling envelope, the LFO, or this incredibly powerful and wonderful keyboard. These have been the 12 oscillators, and I sadly, I really only scratched the surface of how these things can be applied because I tend to examine one section and its function. But in the case of these oscillators, adding modulators to them really opens them up. But in doing so, like that's like skipping ahead to filtering and amplitude articulation and everything. So I'm trying to, at least to some degree, compartmentalize these things. But at some point, you just have to find an interesting oscillator, start messing with what the various knobs do, and then finding ways to make those outcomes happen using the modulators. It's a unique experience for me as an analog user to have these opportunities and have it in a sort of traditionally analog interface, in that like the things I need to control are directly in front of me and I can be using my hands to control them, or I can assign, obviously, what would be typically control voltage functionality to change these sounds in ways that I desire. And every single one of these oscillators, even the analog emulation ones, I was like, yeah, I could do something with this, which is a rare thing. I mean, so often you're like scrolling through a few presets and you're like, oh, that was cool. Oh, this one's cool. But in this, I'm like, oh, I want to use that sound. Oh, I want to use that sound. Oh, I want to use that sound. And I found myself doing that, and you heard me if you watched all 12 of these oscillator videos. Okay, now from this point on, we'll start to address other things like filters and envelopes and etc. Okay, this is the Arturia MicroFreak, and the micro part is plainly, blatantly a lie.